allow me one very quick round of questions, not even trying to wrap this wonderful sequence of presentations up, but to at least bring us back to our subject of the conference, New Economic Thinking, and bring some of the things together, starting with Joschka Fischer. My question is this. Your coalition, your red-green coalition in Germany, was a driving force in deregulation, tax reduction, and other market reforms. Do you still feel that these were necessary, or do you feel that you were misled by the wrong economic thinking?
No, I think, based on the fact of unification, there was an urgent need to do it. It should have been done in, in the 90s. But at the end, unemployment was increasing. 100,000 more unemployed means a billion more deficit, a bigger deficit in the state budget. We had a lack of competitiveness. Germany is depending on its competitiveness on the global markets. We had the costs of unification, which were pretty high. We never talked about that as a nation, but we had to deal with that. And a new economic and political, especially economic reality in Europe, but also globally. So we had to adjust, and we had to address to that. Of course, in the hindsight, you would have done concrete steps in a different way, but all in all, I think this was the right thing to do, and if we wouldn't have done it, then I think the situation in Germany would be very different from the situation nowadays. But listening to these very interesting presentations, this is a world crisis, and the last world crisis didn't lead to the collapse of governments in a constitutional way. It was an unconstitutional way. It was the fascism, communism. It was a Second World War, the Cold War, with a lot of hot wars in the framework of the Cold War. At the end, it was the crisis of 1929 ended in the Second World War, and America overcame these crises by expenditures based in the Second World War, continuously in the Cold War. So it was a long-term war-driven business cycle and power-driven business cycle based on the victory of the United States and her allies in the Second World War, and later on in the Cold War. We shouldn't forget that. Compared to this example, we are complaining about constitutional governmental change. I think that's normal in a democracy, and governments are not elected to stay in the office. They are elected for certain purposes. They can do it, fine, then they got re-elected. Winston Churchill was voted out of office. Winston Churchill, a historical figure for not only the United Kingdom, but for the freedom of Europe, was voted out in free and fair elections directly after his biggest historical success, the Second World War, and the victory of the Western Allies. We shouldn't forget that. Secondly, what I don't understand, nobody mentioned a lack of leadership. But I think a lack of leadership is one of the key factors we have nowadays. And the lack of leadership, leaders are not produced in a theoretical way. They emerge out of a crisis situation. Now, this lack of leadership reflects that the crisis is not so severe. Otherwise, we would be in a very different situation dealing with the lack of leadership. And thirdly, we are in a postmodern world. I mean, it was mentioned if China opts in a more confrontational way, or the US. What will be the result for China and the US if they are going into confrontation? Both sides will pay an extremely bitter price. I think it's not so easy to go into non-cooperative direction. Whoever had said 20 years ago when the wall came down that China still, in the self-definition, a communist country, with a strange form of leadership, what I've learned that 20% of the millionaires are now members of the Communist Party, so communism at the end will succeed if the majority will become billionaires. But whoever would have predicted that China, leading communist power, and America, leading capitalist power, are so interlinked as they are interlinked today, everybody would have said, come on, that sounds not very realistic. But it happens. It's a reality today. So from my point of view, the world changes through crises. And I see in this crisis a huge opportunity. That's my position. And Europe will not emerge without the crisis will push it ahead. So let's think about how we can use this crisis. Of course, we will have to write off a lot of the gains of the decades of huge speculation or whatever. Losses will be written off and so on. But at the end, compared to the 20th century, this world crisis up to now, and I hope this will continue, developed in a peaceful environment with all the negative elements, but it developed in a peaceful environment. No fascism, no communism, no world wars, nothing like that. I think we shouldn't forget that. And we should do everything to use the momentum of the crisis, which is a historical one, at least from a European point of view. I think we must do that, otherwise we will lose our position in the 21st century. And I think also the global economy can do that. The United States, I mean, come on, it would be so easy for you with a moderate raising taxes to get out of the debt problem. I mean, compared to Europe or others, it would be really easy for the United States, and even your economy would benefit by that. You have a psychological problem but I think you will fix that too. So, from my point of view, we must use the opportunity of this crisis, and yeah.
William Jane, wait. I know. Wait. I know you want to probably jump into this conflict with William White, and so. But I think we're not going to solve this now. I have a specific question.
Allow me one
which
sentence.
I may or may not answer.
I don't buy the coup d'etat position.
Okay.
Come on,
Fine.
You can't be serious. We are sitting here discussing a coup d'etat which is happening outside.
No.
Come on.
I have a question to ask. Listening to you, coming back to the idea of new economic thought, you used a lot of old economic thought that was forgotten, partly. So the question surfaces, do we really need a lot of new inventions in economics, or do we just have to remember things long gone?
No, we need a lot of new inventions. We need to be able to model heterogeneous agents, each operating under conditions of uncertainty, each unaware of what the consequences of their decisions will be, and knowing that those consequences are going to depend on other people's decisions similarly situated. And there's people in this room. I saw Marcus Brunnermeier just come in, Giovanni Dassi. There are a number of economists who are operating on that intellectual frontier. Here for them. Come on. Paul Davidson. And, but I will also say that I applaud Joschka Fischer in emphasizing what was involved the last time around. And I deplore the notion, and I deplore it when presented by scholars and when presented by practitioners, that there is no difference between 1933 and 2012. I consider that an extraordinarily irresponsible point of view. And finally, to pick up on Joschka Fischer's challenge to me to speak for America, I would recall that it is only 12 years ago when the existential threat that the United States posed to the world's financial economy was that we were going to eliminate the risk-free asset by repaying the entire national debt. It took one president, two wars of choice, financed by tax cuts, to put us in that position, and we will be out of that position when, as I think we can have hope, as the venture capitalist I am, the Republican Party in its present mode self-destructs and returns to participation in the political process. Thank you.
Sorry to the other three. Joschka Fischer has to leave. I'm asked to wrap it up. That's what I'm going to do. Again, don't ask me to sum this up. You have to put the mosaic together yourself. But one thing, when Albert Einstein had to give exam questions in 1905 in physics here in Switzerland, he handed in a sheet with questions which were brought back to him. And the woman who brought him back said, "Professor Einstein, this is wrong. These are the questions of last year. You can't post them again." And Einstein said, "No, that's okay. These are the questions of last year, but the answers are all new." And this is what, struck me today. A lot of the answers are new to all the old economic questions, and that I think is very hopeful. Thank you, everybody, for your patience and being with us all this time. Thank you very much.